In one of the dumbest moves I've seen from the Canadian government in a long time, they decided to start deporting Americans. And this is all while there is a huge trade summit going on in China right now, trying to remove power from the United States. And Canadian industries are getting smoked by tariffs coming out of Asia. And so, of course, you'd think the Canadian media would be talking about that. But no, they want to keep stirring anti-American sentiment while all of this is going on. And Canada continues to get less safe for Canadians because of the same problem that we know, Operation Curry Bomb, and the ultimate foreign entrepreneurs who continue to help the situation. There's a lot to talk about in today's video, including an update in the Alberta Wexit situation, so let's get into it. We're going to get into the deportation story in a second, but I have to cover this information on the trade summit so you can see how stupid this move truly was.
It's yet another sign of a shifting global political order. For the first time since 2018, Narendra Modi in China, meeting with President Xi Jinping. The Chinese leader saying it's the right choice for both sides to be friends, a message echoed by the Indians.
It was also understood that it is critical that India and China grow and cooperate.
The newly blossoming friendship comes after multiple border skirmishes at the start of the decade that saw dozens killed on both sides. But those clashes are now behind the two Asian superpowers, thanks to Donald Trump.
Guys, there has been military conflicts at their borders, and they're now talking about working together, getting along, building a relationship just so that they can remove power from the U.S. Canadians, we need to hold our government accountable for the actions we are about to see. The world's not going to be a better place if those are the countries in control of everything.
As you know, we put a 50% tariff on India.
Trump's should have been 10,000%, like I said.
Favorite tactic used this time because India has substantially increased their purchase of cheap Russian oil since the start of the war in Ukraine.
India had less than 1% of their oil, 1%, and now I believe it's up to 42. So wow. India is just profiteering, or they are just profiteering. They are reselling. They've made $16 billion in excess profits.
India not willing to back down, continuing to buy Russian oil and drifting away from the U.S., who has courted Indian support as a hedge on China for decades.
I don't think people realize like the economic plague that is India. Again, it just comes down to their population, what they're doing. They're sending out millions of their own citizens who don't want to even be in the countries that we're in because they hate us, but they're going there just to send their money back home. So it's basically becoming a siphon to just take wealth out. They just see it a way to mine wealth out of the Western countries and send it back to India. You see it in comment sections all the time. You see it in interviews. These people say it. Yes, we can't wait for India to get stronger, for India to rebuild. Once it does that, I'm going to move back home. But for the time being, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to be sending my money back to India. It's being done through scam practices like the H-1B visas, the temporary foreign workers, all of those statuses of those people who have no intention of assimilating or joining the countries. And of course, with that money being sent over, it's not staying within the countries. And that's not even including the direct scamming. This is the gray area scamming that they're doing right now.
Giving Russian President Vladimir Putin, who attended the meetings in China, another opportunity to rehab his image on the world stage. But for the Trump administration, all of those issues are interconnected.
India then uses American dollars to buy Russian oil. Russia then uses those American dollars that come from India to finance its armaments to kill Ukrainians. And then American taxpayers are then called upon to pay for the weapons that have to defend Ukraine.
Mark Carney has also attempted.
So as India continues to, help them fund the war over there at the expense of Canadian and American taxpayers, we continue to send supports over to Ukraine. And that's all because India decided they want to keep doing a little bit of scamming. And China too, we're not going to leave them out. But here's what's important. So now we know, okay, India, China, Russia, all of these countries and Brazil, which we'll see in a second, are coming together just so that they can find a way to take on the U.S. And this is how Mark Carney decides is the best way to deal with it.
Attempted to expand outreach with China and India to diversify trade away from an uncertain U.S., Eric, and so far that's yielded mixed results. India and Canada have restarted diplomatic relations after the killing of a Canadian Sikh activist, but China has recently...
He kind of brushed over that story really quickly. Yeah, so India sent foreign agents to deal with a foreign person on Canadian soil. They brought over their 1,000-year-old blood feud to Canadian soil, and they had their government committing clandestine actions here in Canada. What does Canada choose to do? Reward them with not only bringing over millions and millions of Indians to Canada to send them wealth back home, we're now trying to create stronger trade relations just so Canada can take on the US. This is one of the most disgusting backward moves I've ever seen. We should be cutting ties with India. We should be deporting people who are here basically illegally because they scam the system the entire way. Because remember, Canada is a sovereign country and we are not Americans. Again, this is just helping lay down the foundation for how dumb Mark Carney and the Canadian government is right now. Trump slams India, calls trade relationship a disaster. President Trump criticized the tariff and trade relationship between the US and India on Monday, saying it's been heavily one-sided for decades. Until now, a totally one-sided relationship, and it has been for many decades, Trump posted. It has totally been one-sided disaster. Also, India buys most of its oil and military products from Russia, very little from the US. They're such a net negative when it comes to global trade and the economy. Oh, hey, buddy, we're Google CEO. We'll send you so many people and then they can extract all of your wealth. Also, oh, set up your factories here. It's safe to work with us because we are a safe partner, buddy. You don't have to work with China. Think about how dangerous China is. Don't you want to come to India? Safe, very, very safe. Oh, okay, you know, China, the one you're trying to build a stronger trade relationship with. This is why you can't trust them. They're talking out both sides of their mouth. Oh, China is so dangerous, buddy. Oh, China, we want to deal with you so much. In this summit, Xi Jinping specifically said the goal of the summit and the new goal of China is to wrestle power away from the EU-centric model and from the US and try and get it over to Asia. Defying US pressure, China's Xi advances his vision of a new global order. This is real. This is their goal. Why would Canada and the US not be working together in one of the most important times for Canada and the US to have solidarity? As US President Donald Trump's global trade war continues to disrupt international relations, Chinese leader Xi Jinping on Monday called for the creation of a more just, equitable global government system. Mr. Xi was speaking at a meeting at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization in Tianjin. Founded in 2001, the China-led SCO was initially confined to Russia and 4 countries in Central Asia, but under Mr. Xi, it's expanded to include India, Pakistan, as well as more than a dozen observer states and dialogue partners. Along with his signature Belt and Road Initiative and the expansion of BRICS, the SCO has been a key plank in Mr. Xi's ongoing efforts to upend the post-World War II Western-led global order. Here's the thing. China's economy is under pressure. They're actually not doing that well right now. They don't like these other countries. China and India hate each other. China and Russia, it's always kind of, can we really trust each other? And honestly, yes, Trump's tariffs are giving them the bad guy to sort of mount up and take on and come together. If you go to the Indian Prime Minister's Twitter, you have all of these photos from the summit. These are all being posted in the last 24 hours or even just today. And he's talking about all of these people he's meeting with. You see, these are groups that, again, if they start to work together, individually, their economies are tiny. Here he is walking hand in hand with Putin and Xi. Look at this photo here. This is all of the leaders, possibly Putin's body double. I've seen some stuff, people talking about that they think it's one of his doubles. And then you factor in, as they're getting along, BRICS leaders schedule virtual meeting to discuss Trump's tariffs. Have you liked the video yet? We're trying to get these videos out in front of more people. We are trying to grow the channel. If you like what we talk about here, feel free to subscribe. Love to have you on board. All the new subs, thank you. The new channel members contributed. That's awesome. Let's get back to it. Brazil's Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, what a name, is convening a virtual meeting of BRICS leaders to discuss Donald Trump's trade policy. The Brazilian president wants to discuss trade tariffs and rally support for multilateralism among fellow heads of major emerging market nations. The U.S. has imposed different tariffs on different BRICS nations, making it difficult for them to agree on a joint statement, and Lula does not want the meeting to turn into an anti-U.S. summit. It is basically an anti-U.S. summit, and again, this is why it's so hard for BRICS to actually work together. They're on such different playing fields that it's hard. What currency are they going to use? Whose laws are they going to use? You know, who's actually going to sign? Is there going to be official trade documents? Are they going to create a real legislative actual organization? Because right now, BRICS has basically no paperwork. They're just kind of all agreeing we're going to work together, right? But if they do, it's going to be a no-brainer for Canada and the US to be stronger friends than ever before. But instead, even though I'm calling for deportations on this channel and remigration, these are not the ones I was talking about when we're talking about kicking out Americans.
For 15-year-old Stella Fig, this could be her last soccer game on Canadian soil.
Well, I mean, I've lived my whole life here, so it's like home.
Stella was born in the United States, but moved to Canada when she was a baby. Her parents moved here for work 15 years ago with Stella and their son. Ever since moving to Canada, the parents welcomed 4 more children. For them, Canada is all they know.
So it's really challenging to know that I might have to restart at zero.
But after coming back from a trip to...
They can try and say that this is not a political deportation, but we have literally tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Indians who should not be in Canada right now, who are somehow not getting notices of deportation. But this law-abiding, obviously cultural fit to Canada, American family who has built a life here. They now have Canadian kids. I think Canada and the US should get along so well that we barely even have a border between the two countries. But of course, that's not realistic when Canada imports everybody from all over the world. We're a global dumping ground. And for some reason, we have a political deportation of a nice American family, and they moved here in 2010. So that wasn't even a political move either. 2010, Canada still had opportunity and a good community and all of these things. There was reasons to move there without it being political. But for some reason, now they're getting kicked out. Strange.
To the U.S. on Monday, Alice Fig says they were stopped by Border Patrol.
We were being given 2 weeks to pack up our house, to sell our house, to liquidate our assets, and to leave Canada.
It turns out their work visa was expired. Federal documents show that the parents, along with their 2 American-born children, must leave the country by September 8th.
That's the shock.
Oh, your paperwork was expired by 2 weeks, friendly American family who's been here for 15 years and has kids and has been working here legally. You got to get kicked out immediately. Oh, yeah, it's not political at all.
That's where the emotion comes out, of just being dismissed after all that we've done to work to be here legitimately.
The family tried a few times to apply for permanent residency, but to no avail. Brent Fig says in the past, after their work visa would expire, they were usually given a 90-day grace period to reapply. But this time around, that wasn't the case.
The fact that they've never qualified for permanent residency, but somehow, which I'll show you in a second, we are getting hundreds of thousands of Indians as PRs. It's actually millions as PRs over the last few years, and these people couldn't qualify.
So we were well within that window.
One immigration lawyer who does not represent the family says there is a chance they could stay in Canada.
What I would explore with them is an application under humanitarian grounds, which, that's a system we have in Canada that will allow an immigration agent officer to consider the file as a whole.
Though the Figs moved around before, since 2017, Quebec has been home. The kids are enrolled in French schools, made friends, and planted roots in the Eastern Townships community.
Oh, obviously this Canadian-born child, he's the one who's got to get out of here. Let's just bring in 1 billion more Indians for Operation Curry Bomb. But while we're doing political deportations, while we are meeting with essentially enemies of the U.S., including we did just meet with Brazil and talk about bilateral trade agreement as well, while Canada continues to make the worst possible decision, Canada has the audacity to seek U.S. biofuel policy exemptions amid pressure from Chinese tariffs. Don't get me wrong. I actually want this to happen because, again, the U.S. and Canada should be best friends. Think of us as Dale and Brennan from Step Brothers. That's where Canada and the U.S. should be, because these are Chinese tariffs that are hurting one of Canada's largest export industries. And honestly, the U.S. export industries are getting hurt against China as well. I still have not seen any major, real, tangible changes done by Canada's government to help support Canada's largest export industry. It's way bigger than dairy, way bigger than steel, way bigger than lumber. It's Canada's largest export, and for some reason, these guys don't matter. Thanks to the new DDP laws, which is basically the duties payable laws, I'm either forced to up my prices or have to turn off shipping to the US because Etsy doesn't have an option to charge separately. 45% of my business came from the US. They don't want small businesses to exceed. This is going to hurt us. And that's not the US who doesn't want small businesses to exceed. That's the Canadian government who's doing everything they can to destroy small business. As the amount of public employees in Canada has been growing for the last 5 years, guess what's been happening to small businesses in Canada even before the Trump tariffs? Numbers were going down, 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 because legislation, government rules, all of these things have been crushing small business in Canada. But for some reason, the mainstream media won't talk about any of that. We get continued hit pieces trying to brag that Canadians are hurting American travel, hurting American profits for their businesses because Canadians are standing up and choosing to not go to the US and Americans are suffering. And then listen to what he says at the end of this clip here.
With those numbers, are you surprised to see that much of a drop, possibly 8.2%?
No, not really. I mean, you look at the numbers for July, Rogers. It just came out a few weeks ago. U.S. travel by Canadians was down, I think, 37% by car, which is, a lot, 26% by air. So combined, you're looking at close to 30% just from Canadians. Mm-hmm. And Canadians make up roughly about a quarter of visits to the U.S. So some other countries are not doing too badly. And I think Mexico has slipped in terms of travel to the U.S. But a lot of this is due to Canadians.
And where are we?
A lot of this is due to Canadians. Like, these people are like, this is the point of their story. Like, oh, U.S. travel's down 8.2% in aggregate across the whole country, but a lot of it is thanks to Canadians. Okay, why don't you keep bragging about that? That's awesome.
Heading then? Where are people choosing to go instead?
Well, talking to people from the Flight Center travel group, they say a lot of Canadians this summer were heading to Mexico, to the Caribbean, which is in some ways kind of an odd time of year to be heading south. So that certainly says something about the U.S. market, and a lot to Europe. I mean, flights to Europe really packed. I can't even tell you the number of people I've talked to over the last few weeks who've either been to Europe or are heading to Europe in the next few weeks.
That's funny because that's just like an anecdotal little tidbit there. I can't even tell you how many people I talked to who went to Europe. Yeah, lots of people are going to Europe, but like summertime is peak Europe travel time.
Are there any indicators that this is could be a continuing trend in long term?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's always hard to know. I mean, that you do have to realize that, Canadian numbers are likely, you would think, to increase a little bit, perhaps, as the weather gets a little colder. Travel to the U.S. is always stronger in some of those months. But, the months that they've been measuring, Roger, they're month over month. So it's not like July is down because not as many Canadians are going to Orlando as would go in January. They're comparing July of this year with July of last year, or June of last year with June of this year.
Just wait until we get to the reasons why he thinks that Canadians aren't going.
So I don't think there's going to be any big change. Maybe November, December, there could be a bit of an improvement on the U.S. side, at least from Canadians. But, there's so many things that are going on in the U.S., I think, right now, Roger, that make people a little bit nervous. You see the president taking over the police force in Washington, D.C., and saying that the nation's capital is not safe.
Yeah, so basically Canadians don't want to go to the US because there's going to be more law enforcement cracking down on crime.
You see immigration raids all across the United States.
Oh, the immigration raids. Oh, that's so scary for Canadians. And this is why, again, we don't hate the mainstream media enough. He's talking about immigration rates in Canada being a problem. Canada's deporting Americans right now. Those Americans who are getting deported are law-abiding citizens working jobs here legally, Canadian kids. Who's getting deported from America right now? Not even real Canadians. Most of the people getting deported are other dual citizens from other countries who just have Canadian citizenship, who have committed crimes in the United States. Don't commit any crime. I guarantee you ICE won't have any problems with you if you just don't break the rules. But if you don't break the rules, Canada still might deport you. But this is the last part that made me really annoying in a second.
I think the message some Canadians are getting and some people around the world is that they're just not welcome and they don't feel safe.
Oh, yeah, I know that this guy, I guarantee you, this travel expert cares about people being safe in Canada because as we have these numbers increasing, the confirmation of permanent residence issued, and allegedly this is in 2025 so far, we have India at almost 60,000. That's great. These are all people who care about Canada and are certainly the foreign entrepreneurs we want. But luckily, here in Canada, we have 2 men charged in an armed carjacking, says the police. Here's a couple handsome, young, absolutely Canadian gentlemen. They came over as foreign entrepreneurs, but as we know, if you get a piece of paper that says Canada on it, you are instantly Canadian, because there's a couple of them there. Here's another story. Careless driving charged against Brampton man after 6 people injured. Oh, Brampton. That's where we got a lot of foreign entrepreneurs from Operation Curry Bomb. As a result of the investigation, Ranjit Bhatti, a 36-year-old from Brampton, is he from Brampton? Is this guy from Brampton? Is charged under the Highway Traffic Act. Oh, that's really good, because I guarantee you, he was supposed to be here and Canada needs him, and he's very important. And as the Canadian governments, all of the local, municipal, and the provincial governments decided to cancel a Christian country singer because he was American, so of course that's a problem, and he was canceled by the city of Abbotsford. But today, over 20,000 people blocking streets with trucks, carrying knives is apparently perfectly fine for the city. Here's that safety that we want, a foreign nation's flag. And not only is it a foreign nation, it's the foreign nation of Khalistan, which has no land. So they are fighting globally right now to create their own sovereign nation in anywhere that will be weak enough to allow them to do that. Because Canada is weak enough to allow them to start claiming that they have sovereign Khalistani land. You want to know why? Because they get in charge of the military, they get in charge of the courts, they're in policing, they're in government. On both sides, the Liberal and Conservative Party, we have members of Khalistan, of the World Sikh Organization, currently getting power and starting here. But remember, these people are worried about the safety in the US because Canada is such a strong sovereign country. Speaking of, once again, friend of the channel, his name is Gavin Barry. He put out a really good video. It's called Inside the Real Life Gotham City Crime, Chaos, and Disorder. And he kind of shows just how far Canada is shifting, how bad things are going, especially when it comes to safety and caring about Canadian citizens, because we know mass immigration is stealing all of the services. Oh, kids in Canada can't find daycares to take them in and child services. It's because we have mass immigration. The local population gets hurt when you have mass immigration that obviously cannot be absorbed. Long story short, I'm going to link Gavin's video down below. Here we have an update on the Wexit situation.
From warm welcomes,
how's my favorite premier in the history of all of Alberta,
to pointed pushback.
All of these videos seem like propaganda.
This group is carrying out a provincial tour aimed at getting feedback on Alberta's sovereignty.
As much as I do like Danielle Smith, she's not perfect. She nominated a Sikh guy to be in charge of Alberta's new police force, allegedly. Alberta was willing to take international police officers. It was really strange. I do have problems with her, so you might hear me talk about that later on. Not in today's video, but later.
Ideas the premier says could become referendum questions.
It's remarkable. These panels are covering a huge number of policies.
This political scientist suggests the panels could catch all of Canada's attention if Alberta puts national issues on the ballot.
If the stuff that comes out of this process focuses more on core institutions, things like the Senate, I think this is where it's going to start to register a little bit more with other Canadians.
But then there's the question of even being Canadian.
I'm personally hoping that these topics discussed tonight here are preparing us for separation down the road.
If you speak to Donald Trump, please ask him for asylum for people like myself who are hardworking Albertans.
It's so sad that Albertans are feeling like they need asylum. It's so funny these pieces from the mainstream media, which do their best to not give this movement any credence, but somehow Quebec, it's like, wow, strong culture. We need to stand behind them.
For Alberta sovereignty within a united Canada. I have, though, said that if either of the petition campaigns get enough signatures, that we absolutely will put it on the ballot.
Alberta laws allow voters to pose referendum questions if they can get enough support. There are 2 campaigns on separation alone. One group wants to ask, do you agree that the province of Alberta shall become a sovereign country and cease to be a province in Canada? Alberta's court system will test the constitutionality of that question this fall before it can gather signatures.
Would you like to sit down?
Enough of this nonsense.
The second petition is already out there. They're asking,
do you agree that Alberta should remain in Canada?
There is no way that I want us to leave. I think if we leave, then we're prime real estate for whatever's happening in the United States.
That's always my favorite part with these things. So as Canada suffers from major mass immigration problems, we have foreign interests competing inside of Canada to who will take over. The number one concern for those liberal elbows up boomers is, But what if America takes us over? You mean America, the freest country in the world? You mean America, the largest economy in the world? You mean America, the country we share the largest land border in the world with? You mean America, the country that 90% of our population is huddled up to the border for economic warmth, for safety, all of these other things? You mean that America? That's the one you're scared of taking over Alberta? Not India, not China, not BRICS when they become a large, powerful economic force. Even though I remain skeptical of BRICS, the fact is they are getting more and more serious. This is the most we're seeing them meet with the most productive types of meetings. So I'm going to continue to call out the nonsense on the Canadian side whenever there's anti-American propaganda and say, need to be best friends now more than ever. It would be great for both countries. But if you made it this far in the video, you absolutely rock. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you do want to support the channel, there is a link down below. You can do it through YouTube as well. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.